host, I believe, too, so, and our sponsor. My namesake, Paul Orengo, on behalf of USAID and your team, all the CECs and distinguished guests who are here. Let me also start by saying that I'll be a bit unconventional in terms of what I've been asked to make a keynote address. There'll be issues that will be projected, and I'll not go through them all because I have seen from those who have spoken before me, you have touched on the technical aspect and the details as to why we are here and some of the challenges that we have been facing. So I'll just want to address myself to the key thing of sensitization for the key leaders who are here, whether you are from the finance department of the county, the water and sanitation, the health. I think those from the introduction, that's what I was speaking. And even our other support or auxiliary staff that are here who have come to be with us. I think today, to me, it's a big pleasure that after we met in Kisumu, Siala, I think it was Siala, not Royal Swiss, it was Siala. And I came across this program and project of Western Kenya Sanitation Project, and we were able to go through, and I really felt touched with what was going on. And I said, come to listen. I mean, think of it. We have got daughters, we have got our young sons, and we have got our communities. And we always talk about primary health care. And we said, what is primary health care? If it is not basically hygiene and sanitation. I think that's the main foundation of primary health care. And we have all agreed from time to time that if we don't take care or good care of primary health care, it is very unlikely that we are going to succeed on curative level. And that being the case, then we said hygiene is a universal thing. If we are having a big population or a big number of our population, just at personal level, that they are facing hygiene challenges for something that is natural, is biological, it brings life. Without it, you know, there would be no life without this biological function that just takes place. We have accepted nature. Sometimes we even accept where we are born. I remember one of our leaders saying, it was a biological accident that I was born in that manner. A certain name, a certain region, a certain community, a certain individual. But these are just biological accidents that happen. And a human being is brought to the world, and then you are given an identity. Then either your culture or society brands you in a certain manner, they school you in a certain manner, they culture you in a certain manner, and we start getting a little bit of our differences. But before that, your biological process is just the same. Whether you're in the animal kingdom, you go to US, you go to any global, any culture, any civilization, the biological order is the same. The rest is just societal schooling or cultural, how you are brought up. Now we are saying that in this 21st century, we are still grappling with the kind of things that we are talking about here. But the reality, that is where we are. If you go in our cultural traditions, even as some of these subjects were not being spoken, but there was a way they were being handled. Utapata your aunt, hata ukitaka kupata your partner, either your aunt or your uncle, your grandmother, wangira. And you'd be schooled in a certain way or be taught in a certain way. Because it's sometimes when we talk of schools, people just imagine the formal, you know, 4 walls and some roof on top. But schooling was from various places when you are taught on what you need to know. So I've been thinking that on this issue, which is biological, which we are all aware of, which is a passage of time, and we all go through this, why at this time our sisters and our daughters are still being subjected to things that they shouldn't be. And because we are not informing them and we are not owning them, and I tend to think we are the ones who are letting them down, because we are the ones who are schooling them in a certain manner. You know, if you are told this thing is bad from when you are a child, most likely you'll also be shy to think that that's not the right thing to do. And even we fear to talk about it in public places. And yet it's something that we should be doing. So when I came across this, and I confessed also to my brothers here that even how many of us are very much aware of these issues that you people are bringing up. And I'm even sure in this sensitization workshop, somebody would be saying, but these are already people who should be sensitized. But how many of them can stand up in public and, you know, advocate for this menstrual hygiene and articulate it properly and win over people? Eh? How many of them can do it? So I'm sure part of the output of this sensitization workshop, it is not just as policy makers to come up with what needs to be done and all that. It is that we must also be champions. We must also believe in what we are talking about. And it is well summarized here. How are we going to increase access to of market-based improved sanitation and menstrual hygiene management products and services at households? We are talking of households. We are not just talking about, you know, outside their policy issues. We are talking about households. Now, when we are told in statistics that maybe 65% of our opposite gender, from myself, are not able to afford or take care of some of these things, and we are talking about market-based, then what do we do? And I think Her Excellency has explained here very well to say sometimes you go out there and we give a bit of tokenism. We say there are 2 or 3 sanitary packets here, but how sustainable is such a thing? And you see, this is at policy level. Now, if at policy level we are not getting it correctly, how are we going to cascade it down all the way to the household level? And to me, I tend to think these should be the issues we should be grappling with. Because we're only reminding ourselves that, you know, people are stigmatized. Some is cultural issues, some is lack of awareness. All those things we are aware. But the key thing is now, how do we ensure that we are going to be able to have a sustainable system that delivers at the household level so that we can sort out this problem? And I believe it is possible. It is possible, and it starts with us. If, as you have said here, within your CIDP, your annual development plans, you have to be reminded. Like I may ask my CEC, can you just be upstanding? I believed all of you were introduced and you introduce yourself. This thing they are talking about at the CIDP, the annual development plan, did you capture some of this? You did. So you had been sensitized. Sawa, keti chini. But how many here have also done the same? All of us. Hebu tuone mikono juu. You are sure? Tukikuja kuangalia huko tutaona. Tutaona. Is it because it was said or because you really feel that this is very important? How many of you have discussed this in your cabinet when you're meeting? Just to say there's a very important issue here. How many? The CECs especially. Lakini si mnaendanga sasa, hii iliingia CIDP na nini namna gani? departmental, lakini amjafanya hizi supplementaries na nini. Ndio nasema tu mimi nauliza hawa, how many have brought up or discussed this topic at that cabinet level? The CECs. How many CECs are here first? Let me see the hands. Haya, ni wangapi wamezungumza hii? Because we are all sensitized. Eh? You have. At least I have two. Another one? Wangapi wengine? Nimeona mikono mingi ya CECs. Because we have had it outside here. Sindio? But just mainstreaming it, even at the cabinet level, that this is a very important issue. Because I believe most of us now, either we have done our supplementary budgets, sindio? Na tumefanya hiyo. Sasa kama hatujaiongea hata hapo kwa cabinet, iliingia aje hapo, inasapotiwa aje hapo at that high policy level. Because I know at the summit we spoke about it, but we also expect champions that every time you are reminded. Sasa unaona Paul, sasa sensitization moja ni hiyo, that this topic, unless we become ambassadors ourselves, even just within our own establishment, it tends to be relegated behind. Sasa utapata dawa, kuna hospitali, KEMSA, nini, but hii mambo ya menstrual hygiene, and we make it market based. Unaona, maybe there are only two hands that we saw here that have discussed it at that level. And it is important that we do that. Because so many people, utakuja kwa seminar, they will look like they understand, but you know, change does not just come through. You must reinforce until it comes. There are those processes of on how people change. They are aware, they adapt, they do what. So if we are not able to go through those processes, it becomes difficult. Because we politicians, once we embrace it, it will be very easy even in a church, in a funeral, na hapo ndio tunapata watu. We always take advantage. I don't know, my sister is here, she can tell you. For a politician, if you want to pass your message, sometimes hata in a funeral which is very emotional, utasema pole, nini, lakini ile kapointi yako kidogo tena utaingiza. Sina kuanga hivyo. That's why they all move all over. So hii point pia, if we don't take it upon ourselves that once we have been sensitized, we will take it everywhere to the market. That's how we use in English. Pacolate. Sasa hii ni destigmatize. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it with the Luya accent. Are you getting me? How do we do that? That will only mean that when we become champions ourselves and we speak and we show the society that there is nothing wrong with this natural phenomenon. Because the reality, our girls are suffering. And it is us to transform the society. Because without that personal hygiene being accepted, sometimes I even wonder how we are going to. Because people hide. We have been told about it. I think there was a senator who was trying to bring this issue to the national attention. And you could see the reaction of the speaker at that time. And even those who spoke, they were now trying to give it a biblical angle. That when you are undergoing this normal menstrual period, that you are supposed to be isolated somewhere. But we are saying, when we talk about menstrual hygiene, we are trying to say that you can undergo menstruation in a hygienic manner, and you don't need to be isolated or stigmatized in any manner. You can still carry out your functions. I think that's the essence of what we are speaking here. But you find, even at that high level, if I was myself, I would have made a completely different ruling. Because I knew very well that was trying to capture their attention and bring this topic to the fore. But now, instead of discussing the topic, we, in front of the whole public and the media, we said, no, you cannot sit with us. Weenda huko. So then again, I start wondering how we sensitizing our people. So we also need to go at that high level. Because I thought that was an opportunity, in my view, that was lost. Because instead of now canvassing the real issues, we only again reinforce the negative aspect of this issue. So we still have got a lot of work to do. Because when you say, no, you go there, you be this, because the whole thing would have been, there's nothing wrong. This is a natural thing, and these are some of the issues. You cannot be stopped from carrying out your activities because of ABCD, but this brings to the attention that now we need to mainstream this menstrual hygiene so that it's not a stigma. But the way it was handled, we still perpetuated, in my view. I don't know whether my colleague, my sister, has a different view from what I saw. I think you saw what happened in the Senate at that time. So we still have got quite a bit of work to do. Tunakubaliana na hiyo maneno. Sikutaka kuenda kwa ile mingi because he had already elaborated that scientific and technical thing of it. I'm just talking about the practical issues that we need to do. We need to budget for these things. We need to bring them to the core of our policies. We need to educate the policymakers. We must start with those ones. Then we must make sure that, as he said, how does it percolate all the way down there to the households? So that when is the last time any of us here, especially the male gender, you ever discuss this with your girls? Yeah? Or even, as you say, both genders. I'm reminded, when is the last time, after you had been sensitized, you tried even at your own household level to make sure that this is a normal thing? My CC naona unaniangalia. Nitakutumia tu kama example. Because you have been a teacher also, and you must have come across some of these things. So when ourselves, after being sensitized within our own household, how have we tried to demystify this issue in our own households? How many? Okay, Dr. Amalwa, we najua unaweza. Our dear sister here from Homa Bay. My brother, I think we had introduced in the morning, but you can remind me. Homa Bay, waziri wa sanitation na hii maji, sindio? Where your portfolio was very big. I don't know how you are. So those are just 3 or so. But you remember when we talked about it, we said how many have been sensitized. Nearly everybody's hand was up. But you can see when it comes to that practical application, we need to challenge ourselves. We ourselves. And that's why when I was touched there, I said, it's not that I don't mind. I think it's a matter of national importance for us that we cannot continue to do these kind of things. And I tend to believe, and again with my sister here, Gladys, you remember, even at the political level and in the Constitution, we have been talking about gender mainstreaming, affirmative action, and I think we are almost now towards the tail end of that thing. I think we had 20 years. Yeah, but now, when I ask myself, the reason in the Constitution this affirmative action was put, it was not just about the politics. It was also about things and cultures that impede the movement of our opposite gender or the girl child from progressing. But again, I have not seen this championed by our 47 representatives, because they are one of the core things mandate in the Constitution was for them to remove the barriers that impede the progress of the girl child and any other vulnerable members of the society. But we have not seen this happen. And we are almost coming towards the closure because it had a lifetime, I think a time frame of 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. We are now on, yeah, we are in the 15th year. But can you imagine again at that level? That has not been mainstreamed. And we have said here that 65% of our women are affected. But an institution that was created by the Constitution to help remove some of these barriers has also not championed this thing very well. Apart from now, just what I saw the senator, was it Gloria trying to do? But again, even the female colleagues didn't come out to take advantage of that and say was the speaker maybe in order. Before you say that, you get out and go and become clean, what is so undati about a natural phenomenon? Hata sisi sengine si unaonanga hata tuko na huko mapresident wako na urinal incontinence, huo wanafukuzwa. Si tunaonanga hiyo because it's a natural thing. But now imagine in this case it is being handled differently. Then the key thing again, are we really supporting what we have just said here? Because within even the Lake Basin region, we have got 15 women representatives, in addition. And that's a big constituency. And the Constitution envisages that their main role is to remove those barriers so that maybe in another 20 years, then we will be relooking at it. What milestones have we achieved? Now, if just basic things that are making a girl child not to go to school, to be stigmatized, to be seen as unclean, na hii ni damu tu inatoka kwa mwili yako. But when you go to the toilet to do the big thing, you are just okay. Hata ukikuja kama hujaifanya vizuri, hakuna mtu atasema kitu, tutasema tu huyu mtu ananuka, ni kama sijui amekanyaga kitu. But can you imagine a natural thing that is just part of us? We stigmatize. I said I'll be a bit unconventional because sometimes we want to deal with the clean issues, good language and all that. But we are not just seeing the basic things that are really impeding us. First way forward on some of the ways, as I said, when we do primary health, to mainstream in this menstrual hygiene. And you even look at it in our institutions. Even very few institutions have got even those places to dispose things or even to go and change. See, just the way we used to have that buildings now must comply with the people who living with disabilities. We have never said also buildings or sanitary areas should also comply with these menstrual hygiene issues. Even in schools where we are talking about girl childs, you can go to, I have seen some of our primary schools, where do we provide, other than maybe if you are doing a pit latrine. But sometimes you see ablutions and there's nothing. Pit latrines is just by coincidence that it's a pit latrine and maybe it can accommodate more. But I'm sure when it was being designed, that was not the whole idea. Yeah? And even areas, the way we are just putting those sanitation areas in our institutions, we must look at it so that we support this issue. On CHVs, who can also be a big supporting base, I tended to think myself that that's an area we can start with, because we have got almost, I think, 100,000 in the country, CHVs. And now I think there's a government policy to mainstream them and support them both also at the national level. If I'm right, my colleague, you remember there was something that was put in the budget. If we can recruit these 100,000 soldiers, that as they carry out the other activities, they are our role ambassadors for this menstrual hygiene and sanitation. I think to me that will be a milestone. That as we talk to them, and even at policy level, as we say we are going to extend the CHVs, we must recognize this as also a major issue. 65% of our people are affected. And we can come in and say, As we do CHVs, one of the major role also is to support menstrual hygiene. On the business people, where we are talking about sustainability, I'm aware, like the other 2 days ago, I was in Kitui, and they were making, there's a factory, the former governor, Charity Ngilu, had started, and they were making all sorts of things, uniforms and all that. But then I asked them, what about these reusable sanitary pads? And they said, yeah, that can be a good area for us to get involved. So we need to speak to all these people because they were not doing it. I know here we have supported a few, as you say, a few people are doing it here and there. But as we come up with some of these industrial parks, if some of these can also be promoted, that if we have people who are making garments and all that, we can support making some of these reusable parks,